you need to take this seriously. It's not just about accepting Jesus. It's about making a place for God in your life. I'm reminded when I was 5 years old, I went to my parents, like most of us did, and said, I'd like to have a dog. Just a dog. And they didn't say, okay, let's go get one. They set me down and said, have you thought about what it's going to take care of that animal? You're going to have to play with it. And you're going to have to feed it and clean up after it, even after the new has worn off. You can't be excited about having a dog for a couple of weeks and then forget about it. You have to make a commitment. My parents made me make a commitment about buying a dog. And I think if we're going to enter into a relationship with God, we've got to take it at least as seriously as we would buying a dog. He says, make a place for me and bring costly things. Bring gold and silver and bronze. And the list goes on, and the 4 fabrics that he mentions were all costly, expensive items to bring. When God calls us, he always calls us to bring our best. He always calls us to bring him the absolute best, not because he wants our good stuff, but he wants the best from us. Because when God calls us to worship, he's calling us to do that thing that he designed us for. He's calling us to our highest purpose, and he's saying to us, do it with your whole heart. Bring your best to me if you're going to come. An expensive gift that pleases the giver more than the receiver is really not a gift. When we bring things to God, it should be those things that we treasure. It should be those things that we value most of all. If they're not, then we're just contributing to a road soul. And that's different. God calls us to bring the best. And he says, if you do that, if you make a place for me, I will come, and the word he uses is, I will tabernacle with you. And we translate that, I will make a tent. And you can do that, but the word tabernacle is actually an action. It actually means to dwell with. If you're married, on the day you exchange your wedding vows, you and your spouse promise to tabernacle with each other. That's what the word means. It means if you prepare a place for me, if you bring me your best, in exchange for that, I will make a deep, lasting covenant with you. And from the point in this story on until the rest of the time that they spent together, the tabernacle was the center part of their life, physically and spiritually and emotionally. And when they would go from one place to another and set up a new camp, they set up the tabernacle first. One, because it was the place where God lived, but also in order for it to be used correctly, and this is the part that pertains to us, in order for life to work correctly, you have to put God in his place first and plan everything else around it. And if we're not careful, sometimes life will get in the way, and what we'll do is we'll plan life and we'll put all the tents and stuff that make up our busy, complicated life in place, and then we go, oh yeah, God. And we try to fit him in. And when we do that, we're out of balance. And he gave them very specific rules and very specific ways to do it correctly, because it's so very important that we put God in the proper place first and build our life around that. Because that's what he promised his people then, and that's what he promises us now. He says to us today, if you want to, here's the deal. If you bring me your best, I will live in the center of your life. And if that happens, everything works. Everything falls into place. His original design was for him to be their king, to be their God, to be their brother. Because he understood that that's how they were meant to live. With God in the center and everything else around them. And that's our challenge today as the people of God here. We have to ask ourselves as individuals and as a church, is God in the center of everything we do? Do we very concretely and in a real way, every day of our life, say, here is God, and now I'm going to put everything else around it in its proper place? Or do we get too busy with the other stuff and then try to sneak God's tent in where it will fit? Probably do a little bit of both. But the challenge for us today as a church and as individuals is to promise in our heart that we put God in His place and put everything else around. Will you hold me to that? As long as you do that. Is God saying to anyone here today, if you want, and you bring me your best, I'll make my tent in your heart? If He isn't going to give you a chance to come forward and do that. If you need to, maybe you've already made relationship with God, but things have gotten out of balance. Maybe you push the tent over to the side. Maybe you need to restructure your life. I'll give you a chance to do that. I'm going to ask Margaret to come and just play for just a moment. And if you need to respond, if you will. That our cause will not be suffered to fail.